the first cannabis brand that is nationally distributed in chains, and I don't have to wait for a farm bill or an attorney to get comfortable. We have a way to make sure that Bhang is on all those shelves long before our competitors.
From MJBulls Media, it's the Raising Cannabis Capital Show. Today we're joined by Scott Van RixelCEO, President and CEO of Bhang Corporation, which is one of the most well-known infused products brands. Scott, thanks for being on the MJBulls podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Well, first off, Bhang, that's just an awesome name. And you got such a sweet logo. But Bhang, B-H-A-N-G. Tell our listeners the origin of the name and its spelling.
It's the East Indian word for the non-flowering component of the cannabis plant. Everyone's kind of familiar with Bhang Lassi, and they think that Bhang is the name of the drink, when in fact it's a lassi. Just like you would have a mango lassi, you could have a Bhang lassi or a vanilla lassi.
Okay, yeah.
Because we were originally focused on being an edibles company, I felt that paying honor to the origin of the word and the origin of the plant was important. Obviously, there's lots of marketing value in the name.
Plus, it's just cool.
Yeah, we've certainly gone through our trials and tribulations with the trademark office, but I'm happy that we have our trademark. We have weathered the 7 years of contestment for our trademark, and we in fact own title and right to the term Bhang.
Wow. That's huge, but you just started to say 7 years. You're one of the oldest brands. Scott, you're considered an elder statesman in this industry.
We just actually had our 8-year anniversary almost 6 weeks ago. We didn't invent cannabis chocolate. I think we were the first company that perfected cannabis chocolate, not only in a quality standpoint, but the consistency, where tip to tip, bar to bar, batch to batch, we were very consistent. And then from a packaging and production standpoint, I would say that we really brought professional packaging to the marketplace.
Yeah, I'm looking at your website right now, and the packaging is superb.
Yeah, and I will say there's lots of companies that have surpassed us in packaging. I'm proud of our industry. I'm proud of our competitors. I'm proud that the cannabis space is moving in the direction of what it needs to be sitting side by side on the shelf next to nutraceuticals, next to alcohol, next to, whatever category of products you feel cannabis should be in.
Yeah, and I think you're looking at it from a big picture standpoint. Jumping ahead here, you can't distribute your products that contain THC across state lines, but can you distribute your CBD products nationally?
It is our belief, based on legal support and the Ninth Circuit Court, that CBD products derived from hemp are lawful for interstate commerce as long as that material that it's derived from and the finished good do not exceed 0.3% THC.
Oh my God. Well, with your experience working with chain stores like Whole Foods, you got to be probably preparing to get into drugstores, right?
You should be prepared, but like I said, interpretation is 95% of this, just like perception is. Most Whole Foods, CVS, Walgreens, none of these large-scale retailers are going to carry CBD until the new updated Farm Bill passes, or the DEA takes a different position.
But you guys got to be positioning yourself so when that day comes, you're the right brand. You already have experience doing this.
Not only are they the right brand, without going into too much detail, we have a Trojan horse, and Bhang will be the first cannabis brand that is nationally distributed in chains, and I don't have to wait for a farm bill or an attorney to get comfortable. We have a way to make sure that Bhang is on all those shelves long before our competitors. But we will and are already in the process of getting onto those shelves that I just rattled off as a cannabis brand, without having to worry about the interpretation of a law or an interpretation of a DEA memo.
Wow, having that first mover's advantage that's a game changer.
Yeah, in our going public process, one of our pitch items is these large scale farming operations and all these things, they're fighting over a ever diminishing value commodity, which is flower. The more people grow, the less value it will be, and there will be more supply, and eventually demand will run out, and then prices will plummet. The opposite end of that spectrum is a ever diminishing in volume and ever increasing in value, and it's a fixed commodity, is shelf space. Bhang's goal and Bhang's drive is to soak up shelf space. We've done well in dispensaries, and we will do multiples in value and multiples in success soaking up that shelf space in what I would consider the mainstream market, and that services hundreds of millions of people as opposed to tens of millions of people.
Well, speaking of shelf space, how do you get your THC products into other states and other countries?
Other countries will be via export from Canada. We have a JV relationship in Canada that allows for products to be sold in Canada and then exported from Canada. That's number one. And number two is we've used a licensing model where we have licensees throughout the country that we license our branding, the look of our package, formulas. In some ways might be modeled like a franchise, but we've done it in a way that it isn't a franchise. It's McDonald's Light, and they need to source their own beef, which is the cannabis. So we give them all the tools to produce the products and the pathway to produce the products, but they're ultimately responsible for acquiring the active ingredient and then producing it to spec, and then they pay us a royalty for providing those services to them.
So with this expansion, you talked a little bit, you just started to touch on that there's a public offering coming up. Can you talk more about that? And I know our listeners are going to be, after hearing what you just told us, it's a lot of people turned up their radio. So I want to make sure you talk about this.
Yeah, being a novice in the stock, I'll go with the base that I know is in public press releases so people can access those, and I'm not disclosing any insider information. We're doing a reverse merger with a public traded shell in Canada. We'll be trading somewhere between December and January. And then the next step is, how do I get that next market segment, which is the cannabis curious? Mm-hmm. And how do I access them in a marketplace that, these aren't people going into head shops. These aren't people going into dispensaries. How do I get that next group of loyal brand followers? And the only way you're going to access them is by figuring out how to access mass market. And this new line of products that are derived from cannabis, but they don't break any laws, are products that will also allow us to advertise in mainstream media, access mainstream distribution, access mainstream shelf space. And that's something that none of the cannabis world, I think, has figured out, and is certainly not in the position to move on it like we are. I think that's really going to be instrumental in us maintaining being the leading cannabis brand, and more importantly, being the go-to name. So when people blow their nose, they grab for Kleenex, and when people want access to cannabis products, they're going to get a Bhang product because that's the recognized brand.
Well, I think you're on the right track, and I think your passion comes out in your products, and obviously every time you talk, it comes out, but it definitely comes out in your products. And we've been speaking with Scott Van RixelCEO, President and CEO of the Bhang Corporation. All of Bhang's information will be on the MJBulls website. But Scott, if somebody's interested in investing in Bhang, do you have a ticker symbol yet, so they'll know what to do, what to invest in?
We have one that would fall under the. I'm not sure if I can disclose it.
Okay, all right.
I know that will be on the Canadian CSE. Sorry. And we're supposed to begin trading sometime between the beginning of December and the beginning of January.
Okay. I mean, like I said, you're an inspiration. Just being on this call with you motivated me. So I'm sure our listeners are going to be motivated and hopefully move the industry forward. I appreciate you being on the show. Thank you very much.
Yep, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.